Okay, we should be live. Welcome everyone to the Addiction 911 show. We're excited to be here today, and we're going to be talking about treating the addict and how to find the right match for you or your loved one. As I have two guests with us here today, Mark Thompson, who's the director of Archstone Recovery in Palm Beach, and Lisa Saunders, who is the business development for South Florida for 12 Oaks Recovery. And I want to welcome both of them here today. And I'm going to turn it over to both of them. I want you both to give a more in-depth introduction about your treatment facility and what exactly you do. So we'll start with Lisa. Tell us a little bit more about 12 Oaks and what you do there.
Hi. 12 Oaks is actually an Acadia-owned facility. We're in the panhandle of Florida. It's actually in a little town called Navarre, right on the water. It's a 5.5-acre facility. It's, between Destin and Pensacola. So if you blink, you'll miss it. But it is a beautiful little beach town, and it's a nice way to get some folks away from South Florida, which is, I found, a very beneficial position for me. 12 Oaks has been around for 30 years. It is a residential facility. They're in network with over 60 different insurances, including the TRICARE for the military. So they are actually considered a military facility in some ways. They treat their spouses, they treat their wives, their siblings. So that's a really neat thing. You pull up to our facility and you can see each division of each military flag. There is some specialty programs. However, they have the PTSD trauma program for the military folks and for anybody that is dealing with deep trauma through their addiction. It's a wonderful program. Everybody's master level. They also have a faith-based program where they work out of the Bible and celebrate recovery for those that want to go that way, and they also have the traditional 12 steps. That's called Proclaim. The PTSD is called Aspire. They have an adult program to separate some of the adults from the younger folks. And like I said, it's right on the beach in Navarre. It's 5.5 acres. So they have the residential, but they also have the PHP, IOP, OP. They primarily do the residential, however, there. And we also have a 25-bed detox right on the facility as well. With our doc is amazing. Yeah, we have some amazing staff.
Great, wonderful, great. And Mark, can you tell us a little bit about Archstone Recovery?
Sure. Archstone is a small, privately owned facility in Lantana, Florida. We have been saving lives since 2001 from this location. We are JACO accredited and very proud of that. We offer a full continuum of care from detox to residential to PHP, IOP to OP, and then we have our own transitional housing. We also offer, we are basically 12-step based, but that is not exclusive. We also can speak smart recovery, celebrate recovery, refuge recovery. Definitely believe that it's not a case of one size fits all. Not everybody can relate to, one system. So we're open to whatever anybody wants to do, as long as there is some work involved. And as I said, we've been here for a long time, and we are proud of what we've done.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I'm going to ask you both this question here. I mean, our goal here at Addiction 911, especially with this particular topic, is to give information for people who are watching now, whether you're addicted yourself or you're dealing with a family member or a loved one, and you're really confused about where to get help. And I see this over and over again. It's very difficult. You go on Google and there's all these flashy, different ads and, different types of treatment centers. But yet you can also see in the media, there's been unfortunately some very bad media press lately about some unsavory characters that are in this industry. So people are really confused. They want to go to the best treatment and get the best treatment and get better, but yet they don't know where to turn. So I wanted to first start to ask you, what do you guys, since you both are very legitimate, reputable treatment centers, what are some red flags that an addict or a loved one should look for when choosing a treatment center? Lisa?
Yes. Well, and unfortunately, sometimes when we are seeking help, we look for help through Google. What I would say is to find a resource that you can reach out to that is going to send you to the correct place. A lot of misleading things happen with the internet, and I love the internet, and that's actually how I found treatment. I went to treatment almost 6 years ago, and it saved my life. It was a good jumping off point. I did have to start the work afterward, but grateful to be in recovery and grateful to have the life I have. But I was misinformed in the beginning. I didn't know what existed. So I would say if you have resources, like a lot of the folks like me and Mark that work in the business, we have a Rolodex. We know the good players. We know the bad players. They call them the good and the bad actors. And the beautiful thing that's happening in Florida is that it's being brought to our awareness. We're finding out the bad ones, and the bad ones are getting in trouble. And it's changing the course of addiction treatment down here. And I'm so grateful for that. I love to be an advocate to help addicts like myself. So I would say, find the people that know the places that are good. And I think I'm hoping you would agree, Mark, is, I get calls all the time for places that I don't put in my people that I don't put in my treatment center, but I know where to find the help for those folks. I have the contacts.
Sure. We tend to be a fairly small community as far as the treatment centers go. Everybody knows everybody. So I agree with Lisa that when we get calls for people that, for whatever reason, we can't help, we know who can call. As far as the families looking for help go, yes, in this day and age, the internet is usually going to be the first place someone goes, and Google, they go right out there. And so as that is going to be the primary means by which people start looking for treatment, I would recommend that, people also do some things like, for instance, look for other social media connections. If the place that you're looking at, for instance, has a Twitter account, if their Twitter is on their website, look to see how many followers they have. If they have, a Facebook page, see what's going on that Facebook page. Are they actually engaging with people, or are they just using it to post pretty pictures?
Mark, I'm going to interrupt you just for 1 second because we are getting a question from a mother here, Lisa Carter, who says, my son, please help, give me a number. So can both of you give her both your phone numbers, Lisa and then Mark?
Yes, absolutely. A direct number for me is actually it's 850-380-2372. Again, that's 850-380-2372. Or she can email me at elisa.saunders@12oaksrecovery.com, or go on to 12oaksrecovery.com, and that'll put her right into our website if she wants to take a look at the facility. Like I said, we're owned by Acadia, which is one of the largest healthcare companies in the world, and they do it very well, and they really make sure we take care of every individual that comes in contact with us.
Wonderful. And Mark, your number?
Our number down here is 561
561
588-8323, or you can contact us at archstonerecovery.com. We're about as far away in Florida as you can get from Lisa. So please
I live here. I put people in that wonderful facility in the Panhandle, or I am blessed to help people up in Pensacola.
Lisa, please call one of us. We can definitely help you out.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Good luck to you.
Wonderful. Okay, we're going to be posting at the end of the show the numbers. I want both of you to go on this broadcast and post your information, as well as we're going to repeat it again. So, Lisa, we're praying for your son and
Yes.
hoping that you can get him into treatment as soon as
Absolutely.
possible. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so we were talking about the red flags. So, Mark, do you have any more red flags that you were talking about Twitter when I interrupted you? Any other red flags that we should be looking for?
Sure. You can contact via the internet. You can go onto DCF, their website, and look up the facility you're looking at to make sure that they are indeed licensed, and that's very important. You can go on to the Joint Commission website, see if the facility you're looking at is accredited. That's very important.
FAR is a really good.
FAR.
The FAR.
That's FARR. Right,
Correct.
Florida Association of Recovery Residences.
Yeah.
Okay,
Make sure they have
wonderful.
that. I'd suggest you look to see if they've made the investment in Better Business Bureau. Any kind of accreditation or certification that a facility has will speak to its legitimacy. Look at their website. Don't fall for flashy pictures. A lot of some of these facilities, they'll go out and they'll rent a mansion, then splash those pictures all over their website. And, they have no connection to it other than they signed a lease and wrote a check. So look at the website, go to their social media, check out DCF, check out those other places I said. Do your due diligence before you make an investment in sending a loved one to treatment center.
That's very good advice. Lisa, who has the son who's looking for treatment, had just put that she's in Gainesville, Florida. So Lisa Saunders is
Yes.
over on the West Coast, and Mark is over on the East Coast of Florida, just so you get an idea of where the both treatment centers are at. So that's really great advice. You're right. You have to be really careful of these flashy type of websites and marketing material. And, we also have a situation that's especially here in Delray, Boynton Beach area, where we had like patient brokering, which was, actually these really bad characters, trying to offer drugs to addicts to get them to go to their treatment center to get the insurance
And a
money.
whole lot more drugs, money, transportation,
Free cigarettes,
free food,
anything.
free cigarettes. Yeah, it's out of control. It's out of control. But thank goodness for us that Florida's being recognized for having it, and they're doing things. I'm so grateful for that Sober Home Task Force and Dave Ehrenberg.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm on a couple of them, and it's just a beautiful thing that we're getting that we're getting into it and making some great changes, Christina. Really
That's
great
wonderful.
changes down here. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Lisa has another question. How does she find someone in her area? Do we know anybody who's actually in Gainesville?
Yes, tell her to call me, or I'll tell her. Lisa, give me a call. I'm happy to refer you to some folks that are closer to your home and also find out what's going on with your son. So, I travel up and down Florida. I live in the Delray area, but I travel up and down Florida. So I'm happy to be a resource for you.
Wonderful. Great. Okay. So the other question I would say would be, how do we find, for somebody now watching and we're, again, a mother or a father or somebody who's the addict themselves, how do we find it's a good fit? Is it better to go to a treatment center that actually specializes in the type of addiction that you have, or a more generic center, or the one that does a lot? Is there, say, for example, if you need medical, you wanted some treatment centers I know do not provide, Suboxone or medical prescriptions, and some do. So how do you make that decision?
You want me to go
Lisa?
first? Okay. What I would say is a lot of times in the very beginning, a business development person will be involved, and then we get them in touch with our admissions folks. Not everybody has that. Some people are frontline, but there is an assessment that is usually done in the very beginning to see what the customer's needs is. needs are, to see what's going on with them. Very seldom do I get on the phone with someone and say, okay, so here's my center and this is what we offer. Let me just put you in touch with my admissions. A lot of times I will ask qualifying questions, and then they do an assessment in the biopsychosocial, I think it's called, when the admissions gets the clinical team involved too. So not every center is meant for every person. Like that trauma piece that we have. A lot of military folks do like to get into that PTSD trauma piece, but maybe an 18-year-old kid that's never had any trauma, that's only been using, because one of his buddies gave him heroin for 6 months, he doesn't really want to dig into that trauma portion. That's why there are so many options, and it is really important that, like Mark was saying, the due diligence is done. And folks like Mark and myself have to be very careful about not just trying to shove our treatment center down someone's throat, that we really find out what's going on so we can advise them to go to the right place if we're not the right place. And sometimes we're not, and I send people out all the time, actually, to other folks.
I would totally agree with everything that Lisa said. I would have answered the question the exact same way, but I would again throw in a caution that when you are on the phone talking to a treatment center, exercise the same kind of caution you would if you were buying a car or buying a house. If the person on the other end of the phone is saying, oh yeah, come on, we can have your loved one in treatment today, that might be a red flag too. Because if they're not asking the kind of questions that Lisa talked about, they're just trying to get you ahead on a bed. And a reputable center is going to find out what your needs are, what the issues that are going on with you right now, and whether or not we're going to be a good fit. If we get a phone call here, we have a full continuum, like I said. But if we get somebody here who is talking about having an active eating disorder, they've had a recent, psych hospital admission due to a serious suicide attempt. Those people, they are as deserving of help as anyone else. I just know we're not qualified to deal with those issues. However, going back to the Rolodex idea, we have a Rolodex. We can make some calls and get that person the help they need. So asking those questions, listening to what's being said to you over the phone is really important. I think that's, I've read so many stories about parents, talk to parents who in good faith sent their kids down here to South Florida to get treatment. They come home in a body bag. That's so sad, and it's happening.
Or everywhere. California,
Correct.
Texas, Utah. There's a lot of treatment hubs all over the country, and some of these kids are dying, because they're not getting the correct treatment they need. Or even adults. But this heroin epidemic is especially tough right now. And, it's so, so important to get the right help and be at the right place and not be misled by some of the lures and the coercion that's happening right now, too.
And isn't it just a horrible shame that there are people out there who take advantage of, there's people dying and kids are dying, and yet there's these bad characters out there who would want to make a buck, would actually prey on this and use it as an opportunity to make money, which is so sad. But thank God there are people like you, and there's so many wonderful people. And I want any people who are watching this to realize there are more good people than bad. The bad are the very minority. I've met so many wonderful people in the addiction community who really, really care. Who've done so much work, like you said, referring to other people, not thinking of themselves, trying to get them into scholarships, just doing, after hours, doing whatever they can to help. And that I see is the majority. And I'm sure you two see that as well. That is the heart of the addiction community. So I don't want anybody to think that it's not, that there's just all bad guys out there. It's just that we just have to all stick together and make sure that we weed out the bad ones, and then, make sure the good ones are there to do what they have to do to help people that need it. Lisa Carter again has asked another question here. Can you help with intervention? So Lisa Saunders, if she calls you, you can also help her with that?
I'm not an interventionist, but I do have lots of numbers of some amazing interventionists that do come in and work with the family. Like, for example, there's a lady named Judith Landau that she teaches the Arise model of intervention all over the country. Just amazing, powerful interventionists everywhere. And I do have contacts. Heather Hayes, another amazing interventionist that's so ethical and wonderful and travels all over the country helping. So I do have some folks I can send her to that would be able to help her if that's the route she wants to go. Then it's wonderful to include somebody in that process with the family. And the Roz model invites the addict in. They don't just spring an intervention on them. They will invite them to be a part of their own intervention, which is pretty neat to watch that as well.
And
I would go a step further and say not only is it important to have somebody involved, I'd say it was vital.
Okay.
Because interventions can quickly spiral out of control without a professional who knows what they're talking about there. So it is very, very important.
Which brings up a really good point for the people who are watching the show right now, who are trying to get a loved one into treatment and having a difficult time doing so. That's the hardest part, when someone refuses to go into treatment. Like now, Lisa Carter just said, my son has been on life support 8 times. My God, I'm so sorry to hear that, Lisa.
Heartbreaking.
Absolutely heartbreaking for a mother to go through. I mean, it's horrendous to watch that and over and over again. And then you feel so helpless, as a parent, as someone who loves someone, and and it's really, really hard to get them to, and I think maybe we agree we can't really force treatment on someone, right? I mean, they have to at some level want it. What would your opinions be, Mark? What would you say about that?
Well, the expression that pops to mind is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You can, however, make them thirsty. And so I think that in order to help motivate the person, we have to stop talking about how awful, shameful, disgusting the addiction is, and talk about how wonderful and fulfilling and life-changing recovery can be.
Right.
Take the negativity and the shame out of it. And that's what I'm talking about when I say we can make it thirsty. For too long, we've been on the shame.
Thirsty for recovery.
Yes, exactly.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. Because poor Lisa here says she's going crazy, which just so many moms out there that are going. At least I don't know if there's a very good organization run by a good friend of mine. It's called the Addict's Mom.
Yeah.
Here on Facebook by Barbara Theodosia, who unfortunately lost her son Daniel. And it's mothers like you who are, need support, and it's free to join. You just put it in Facebook, the Addict's Mom group. And
I would tell her to go to Al-Anon as well. And a lot
absolutely.
of parents, because that Al-Anon really teaches families, parents to know that they didn't cause it. They can't control this disease. And it's going to get her some healthy boundaries with her son too. And all the parents, Al-Anon. And then I have a friend of mine that started a wonderful organization down here called Learn to Cope, where they have one in Fort Lauderdale, Tracy Deutsch. They have one in Fort Lauderdale and West Palm. Yeah, she has Learn to Cope, and it came from Boston, where she has 8 or 9 different areas of Boston that are doing the Learn to Cope for the families. So there's so much help out there for families as well. Al-Anon is a good one. Learn to Cope, the one you were talking about. Lisa, you deserve to have some peace of mind too. And I would plug into getting healthy yourself with this stuff, because I know it has got to be making you crazy.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
I was going to say, very frequently when dealing with families, what I constantly hear is that person, that's the one who's sick. That's the person who needs help. And to that, I tend to reply, yes, that person has an illness, but just like many other illnesses, they tend to infect the people around them.
It's family disease.
And
yep.
It is definitely a family disease. And so it's very important that the families, get the help they need. It may not be the exact same kind of help the addict's getting. For instance, Al-Anon, as Lisa mentioned, is so important. I've seen such changes in family members from the time they start attending Al-Anon to the time they're done dealing with us as a treatment center. Now, the addict in treatment tends to hate it.
Mm-hmm. They usually do. I know I did.
Yeah, but it makes for much healthier families.
Yeah.
That just because I just see Lisa's writing here, she doesn't want her son to die, and she's tried everything. Everyone has turned her down. Lisa, since you've been in recovery now for 6 years.
Yes, in September I'll have 6 years.
That's just absolutely amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, wonderful. And
I'm sure your mother felt like Lisa here, Lisa.
Yes.
So what would you say from your perspective of her son right now? How could you give Lisa some hope here for her son, from the addict's perspective?
Well, there is hope. And I didn't realize I thought I was only hurting myself. I wasn't only hurting myself. I was hurting my family. I was hurting my sister. I was hurting everybody around me. I was like a tornado. I would just rush in and suck the life out of everybody. I would say that, like we said, the Al-Anon piece is very, very important for her, or getting into an organization like a Learn to Cope or the Addicts Mom that's going to get her feet on the ground as well. And, don't give up on her son. Don't give up on him, because, it's amazing, some of these parents, how much they love, but don't enable them, because some folks will think that by keeping the kid in their home, they're going to live. And that doesn't always happen either. And enabling is such a harsh word for parents, and some people don't agree with saying it. But at the time, I think families think they're doing the right thing by helping their kid. And sometimes there's got to be a way to help your child without letting them get away with not making a choice to change. And it is about change. I mean, I wasn't willing. I didn't have any desire to get sober. I had to have a nudge from the judge for me. But when I did see the writing on the wall, I wanted to change, and I wanted my family to not have to suffer with my addiction anymore too. So there's hope. There is a lot of hope.
And that usually starts, helping the addict is one thing. And I would say to Lisa, the mother that we're talking to here, help really starts with helping yourself. He's obviously struggling. He's been on life support 8 times. It's up to you to look after yourself. I'm sure that over the course of the years, you've done everything that you can think of to try to help your son. And it sounds so harsh, and I'm sorry. It isn't meant to be, but your son is going to do what your son is going to do. You can be a role model. You can be an influence on him, but his choices are his. Your choices are yours. And I would highly encourage you to go get help for yourself. I remember when I picked up my 1-year medallion, my mother and father came to meeting. And following the meeting, they took me out to dinner with my wife, and my father made the comment, "Don't understand why we're here celebrating Mark doing something for 1 year that everybody else seems to be able to do regularly on a day-to-day basis." Well, my dad didn't understand. Father did not understand, but I am so thankful that they both took the opportunity to get educated. So if there's one thing that we can do to help the sick and suffering addicts to get educated ourselves, what's going on with it, what this is all about, because too many people still think it's a weakness, it's a moral deficiency, it's whatever. Instead of looking at it as a medical disorder that can be treated, can be arrested.
Yeah, and Christine, I didn't realize that when I put a substance into my body that I gave up the choice of power and control. I didn't realize that when the drinks and the drugs were in me, I couldn't say no to it. I didn't know that. I didn't really know that that's what alcoholism meant, that I had that obsession of my mind, and I was also allergic to it with that phenomenon of craving that made me just always have to have more. I didn't realize it. But when I did get taken away and get detoxed and have some time away from the drinking and the drugs, then I did have a choice. And then I did have the willingness to change. And some of these kids really do. And I see the light come on in their eyes when they do get it. And it is beautiful to see that change. So I would say for Lisa, the hospitals, the nurses, they are overrun with so many of these folks getting into addiction. So she's just got to stick by him and let him figure it out for himself and continue to do what she can in her due diligence to help him and herself.
And that brings us to the question, when somebody overdoses, obviously they go to the hospital, it's short term. Then we have maybe 30 days as the average, but does the length of the stay really matter? I mean, there's some treatment centers that, I don't know if you guys do like 60-day or 90-day, but maybe she says, I keep letting him go. Why? I mean, a lot of times 30 days maybe isn't enough. What is both of your opinions on that?
Well, sometimes, unfortunately, treatment can be dictated by the insurance companies, which is horrible.
Yes.
And that's our industry, and that's what we're fighting against. And folks like Mark and myself can only do the best we can do with that. But I would say there are some great aftercare programs where a discharge planner can get somebody that's leaving treatment plugged into a good aftercare program where they can get into an intensive outpatient, but also getting the real work does start when they get into doing a program themselves. And that's why we, do offer the 12-step. Like 12 steps for me, it's a big part of my life, So aftercare, the real work does start after treatment, truly. So if they're in a 90-day program, that's wonderful. They have more of a chance to have some clarity. But when they get out, is the real work.
Right, the real world, the real work. Mm-hmm. And you bring up a really good point because, we have a big issue going on right now with healthcare. Yeah. And the reform. And you just you said a point, and it's not just for addictions, for everybody. No. And I think people really need to wake up that insurance companies do dictate and will continue to dictate our medical care in general. It dictates what medicine we can take, what they'll cover, what they won't cover. And especially we see it with addiction, which is an absolute epidemic. When you think about all the people that are dying every day in this country from heroin and from overdoses, and you think about that, it's like we're at war. Like we're sending.
It is a war.
It's a war that people are dying from, and yet we want to, have insurance companies say who can live or die and who can get treatment. So it's something for people to reconsider when you think, oh my gosh, with this insurance, which way should I, go with it? Really think about that, especially if you have a loved one who's addicted. We really need to treat every human being, in my opinion, deserves care. That's just how, if you're alive, you deserve to be cared for, whether you're
Everybody deserves help. Everybody deserves help.
I mean, there's some horrifying things I just read about a week ago, and I think it was here in Florida. There's one in Ohio, one in Florida, where there are some actual towns that want to limit the use of the Narcan shot for overdoses. So if somebody's taken it too many times, they want to not give. I mean, that to me is mind-boggling. Is that, Mark, what do you think about that? Is that the most horrendous thing you ever heard, to choose life or death based on judging an addict for how many times they overdose based on money?
We've hit them 3 times with Narcan. Maybe the 4th time we'll save their life, but we're not going to do it because there's a local statute in place that says I can't. No, that's insanity.
Can you believe this is even being discussed, that there's even politicians saying this? I mean, this is outrageous. People watching this show, right into your politicians, right into your local authority. We cannot tolerate this. What kind of society will we be if we start making these kind of judgments? I mean, we're, on anyone's life.
None of us should play God, and everybody
exactly.
does.
Everyone. I mean, look, Lisa's son has been, been 8 times, and he has a chance. He's got a chance to live.
He still has a chance to live and change and have an amazing life. He's young. There's so many young, beautiful kids that do deserve this chance.
Everyone deserves a chance. And I think that we had our last discussion, which Mark was on the panel, about, the stigma of addiction, about blaming the addict, and about, how people, and that's really what a lot of this is about. We have a lot of prejudice against people who are addicted. A lot of people feel, well, they're making that choice. And, but we have to understand this is something, maybe it starts off initially that you try something, but it quickly, in some people, turns into a disease. 2 people can try the same thing, and whether it's drugs or even cigarettes. I mean, me and my brother both tried cigarettes when we were younger. He could have a cigarette, not have one. I winded up being addicted to cigarettes. I quit 20 years ago. So we were same thing with drug addiction. 2 people can
it
drink.
Doesn't discriminate at all.
Exactly. And something in someone's brain is going to get the trigger. So everybody needs to understand that, we have to have more compassion for this disease, and be able to help people. So Lisa's saying that her son's name is David, which we're all going to pray for David. He's 27 years old. And Lisa says unfortunately, she's blind on Social Security. She can't afford treatment. Lisa, does your son have insurance? So she can answer us that. That's another huge issue when deciding with treatment. And what would someone do when and I get this, for Addiction 911, we've been getting a lot of calls and inquiries from people who find us online and say, please, I need help. And I've been putting it in the group to the addiction professionals and giving with their permission, the number. And she's saying no, that he does not have insurance. So what do we do to help the people who do not have insurance? Mark, I'll start with you.
Well, I think it begins with the attitude that I was mentioning before about, as we were discussing, blaming the addict. And unfortunately, that starts with the family, goes to society, goes all the way to our government. I think if the powers that be truly cared about taking care of those people in our society who are suffering from this, we would see facilities that could help people like Lisa's son. Whereas, here in West Palm Beach, the largest one that we had closed down.
Yeah,
and that's so sad. CARP was so badly needed in this community. And for people like Lisa's son, we get calls every day, numerous calls from people who are sincerely seeking treatment. And we can't help them because we don't take Medicaid. And there are so many of them out there. And in our present, atmosphere in Washington, they don't appear to be that interested in helping those people who need help the most. In fact, just the opposite, taking the help away. Just too bad.
Well, and I can honestly say, I've done a lot of my own personal work to get scholarships for folks that really do need help. Scholarships are not always readily available. It's very dependent on the situation at the treatment center, unfortunately. DAF, I speak at DAF sometimes, and there's always a wait for their beds. That's in Delray. It's a state-run facility, and they do it for free. I think it might be $25. They'll detox and they'll help. They'll help people like myself there. But there's usually a waiting list. There's a place called Bark down in Broward County that does the same for folks that live in that area. there are resources, there are places that can, and it goes back to like having a Rolodex, knowing who to call, who can do this. And again, it's the willingness of the addict too, because a lot of times, they're not going to give a scholarship if someone's not going to really commit, or they're not going to give you a detox scholarship and let you detox and go back out on the street, So it's very hard to watch. And I know me and a lot of my friends do everything we can to help get folks scholarships or send them to the right organization that's willing to help someone without insurance.
Yes, Lisa says, I love him so much. Please don't let him die. My God. I mean, I don't know, Lisa, has he had a scholarship yet? Has he, I just from what
has he ever been to treatment is the question.
It seems like he's going to the hospital and being released, and he hasn't been had a chance for treatment. So I'm curious. Yeah. Has he been to treatment?
That's the history.
What's the history? If you could type that in for us so we know. There's got to be no, he hasn't. See, this is a typical example of somebody falling through the cracks, doesn't have insurance. And there's got to be, we've got Mark and Lisa here, and I know there's other addiction professionals watching right now. Can someone please help Lisa for her son? Find a scholarship. I know if everybody, puts their head together, there's got to be a way we can help David. It's just a shame, and there's so many more Davids out there. Unfortunately, this is so many problem, and it's a shame, and it's going to start. Everybody who's watching this, again, I'm going to say, definitely contact your local politicians and tell them it's just unacceptable, the current healthcare bills that they want to pass to cut all treatment, but especially the addiction treatment. We can't afford, even the way it is. With no insurance and having to wait. Like you said, the facilities that are available, you're having to have long waits for. So what good is that? If they're waiting, they're going to die, if they're not going to be able to get in. We need to have more places that people can go who don't have insurance, as you probably both agree. Any other suggestions for people who are in this situation? Mark, what about you?
I'm thinking maybe the SAMHSA website would have.
What was that called?
The SAMHSA website, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration.
That's true.
They might have a
list. That in. It's called. How would I put that in? It's
SA, Substance Abuse and Mental Health. Services Administration, SAMHSA.
SAMHSA, like that.
Yeah, as Substance Abuse SA, Mental Health MHSA.
Okay, without the W.
Correct.
Okay, .com or .org?
I don't know.
Let me see if I can look it up real fast. As you guys talk, I'll look it up. So that's one resource. Anything else we can think to get some help here?
Maybe referrals from local hospitals. Call the social work department at your local hospital and ask them if there are county-based or state-funded.
Yeah, that's a good idea. The social workers are pretty helpful with something like that too. I talk to social workers all the time that are very educated on it.
Sure.
So I'm looking this up. I don't see it under. I think we have it under substance abuse. The official name is Substance Abuse Mental Health
Services Administration.
Okay, let me see if I can find that. Mental health.
And I know there's a lot of information on that website too. I know that I've heard in the task forces, the sober home task forces, they bring SAMHSA up a lot.
SAMHSA.gov. SAM.
Oh, I got it. There's an H in there. Yes. Okay. That's why I'm not getting it here. Okay. I've got it right here. It's HSA.gov. And let me put this up here. Okay, let's keep that resource up there. And Lisa, definitely, she says, thank you so much. Definitely, that will be a very good resource for anybody who's watching, who's dealing with this issue with no insurance. And it really ties your hands. Forget like some of the other questions like see me regular, like I have on here, does a luxury treatment with spa services and meditation work any better than a no frills one? And now you've got people who don't even have insurance, can't go anywhere. So
Right.
I mean, you've got these once promising horse therapy and, you know, and spa treatments. And
which is all lovely, but it's
Right.
about having a strong clinical program and really getting some clarity and some work done.
And let me ask a question. Little Bobby's been running rampant through your life for years. He's stolen from you. He's wrecked relationships. He's done all this stuff. Do you really want him to have 700-pound Egyptian cotton sheets and equine therapy on pension on the beach?
Some would agree with us, Mark, and some would not.
Right. It's time for Bobby to buckle down and do some work.
And get the real help he needs and deserves.
Exactly. And there are some extremely talented therapists who help people every day in less than luxurious surroundings.
So doing your research or finding the resources and talking to the people before you just throw your child in a treatment center, because, you know, and I hear a lot of young addicts say, well, they wanted to come down to Florida because there's palm trees and there's the beach and the pretty girls, you know, that gets them here. And 9 times out of 10, they get the right treatment because they come down to Florida. You know, I know so many that got sober and are still sober here, but it's doing your footwork, looking into what the right place is.
And I guess maybe too, in a way, it can be an enticement to somebody who's resistant to treatment. You know, maybe that's part of the reason it's done is that you have, I think we lost Mark, we'll be bringing back in,
Okay.
you know, like by the promise of being able to, you know, say, oh, we're going to get a, so it's like, okay, it's not too bad for me to go to treatment, you know, so it may entice some people to go, you know, but it's like you said, it's not necessary. And I mean, I don't know if they still do, but years ago, Betty Ford Center they make you clean and stuff too. And, you know, like celebrities who go there and have to mop the floors. I think the story was Elizabeth Taylor years ago, you know, went to Betty Ford Center and, you know, but I guess it's not as enticing. You know,
the point I think with that is to do esteemable acts. I know when I was in treatment, they made me make my bed every day. I didn't make my bed. I didn't know how to make my bed. I was 40 years old and had never paid a water bill. You know what I mean? So they're gearing folks towards living and doing esteemable acts or doing the next right thing, which is what a lot of these programs do dive into later. So I didn't get it at the time, but now I do. And, you know, by God, I've made my bed ever since. And I had never made my bed until I was almost 30 years old, if you can imagine. So it's teaching me.
Was that because of mom and dad? Mom and dad were enablers?
You know, my mom and dad, and I love them and they're wonderful and they did the best they could do. But I knew that if I went back to them, they would always help me. So I, as the addict, took advantage of that. And eventually they put their foot down and said, we're not going to do this for you anymore, Lisa. You are an adult woman with I was a Palm Beach County school teacher that didn't make her bed or pay a water bill or live on her own. It's in some cases because I was so in active addiction for 25 years, you know? So, a big part of my change was getting to treatment and shifting my belief system and the fact that I needed to live differently. And I remember sitting, I had a DUI and I remember sitting in that jail cell for 12 hours and looking down at the picture of myself, my mugshot, and thinking, if I didn't change, I had that tiny window that I like to call God's grace. If I didn't change, I was going to die. So that's where my willingness came in, and treatment really did help point me in the direction of living correctly. Did.
Look how wonderful you're doing. It's amazing. And Mark is also recovering. And each are shining examples. Look, this for Lisa's son. Look at these two here. We're helping people and giving back and who've lived it. And there's so many people in the addiction community who've been there, who've come out on the other side. And so it's not only possible, it's very feasible.
Yeah,
absolutely.
the right help, right? Getting the right help. Another question I was curious about, do you think it's better to send your loved one out of state, further away from the family, or keeping them closer by? I mean, is it better to have that distance, especially when there's enabling involved?
I am of the belief that in order to help somebody jumpstart their recovery, and that's all treatment is, jumpstart.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's kindergarten.
Yeah.
For recovery. But it's really, really important to get them out of their present surroundings, because, you know, we are going to be trying to teach these people some new tools.
Yes.
And in order to do that, we need to try to help them how to think differently.
Yes.
About a number of things. And unfortunately, the human animal tends to fall into certain thinking patterns. So we can take the person out of their environment, try to give them some new ideas, but regardless of how good we are at doing that, when they go back to that environment, because of their conditioning, because of the way they have been, you know, taught to think, their mind will start going back into those old thought patterns. And so it comes down to motivation. How bad does the person want this life? And what are they willing to do to get it? But I don't think you can do that at the same time that they're in their same environment. You know, okay, here's what you should do. You should be honest, open, willing, courageous, ethical, practice brotherly love, practice a relationship with a higher power. Now just go back to that same place
right.
The same people you were using with. That doesn't work. Doesn't work. They need to get away.
Yeah, someone said to me when I first started recovery, they said, you don't need to change anything but everything. Or you need to change one thing, everything.
Amazingly, my sponsor told me the exact same thing.
I'm like, what does that really mean? You know, and it's funny because, you know, for me, it was also about spirituality. And you know, addicts are so funny because we are faced with two choices: accept a spiritual solution or die an alcoholic death. And I was like, how bad is that alcoholic death? You know, because I didn't know what I didn't know, you know, and I didn't know there was life on the other side. And I didn't know there was hope. And it was beautiful to see the people that came before me. Like Mark, I love what you said, and I love what you continually say. I mean, it's so true. Those principles. So it's more about just putting down the drugs and more about just putting down the drinking. It's about changing our whole lives from the inside out, including our
Absolutely. Beliefs. If it was just about putting down the drugs, neither of us would be sitting here.
We wouldn't.
You know, we wouldn't have an industry.
Yeah.
Every single alcoholic and addict knows how to put down the drugs. They do it every day. They
just don't stay stopped, and I couldn't stay stopped either.
Exactly. And to go back to the point that Lisa made, I think at the heart of this, it's a spiritual disorder. Mm-hmm. As such, it requires a spiritual solution. I think that's where the 12-step program, where refuge recovery, smart recovery, all those things come in. Well, maybe not smart recovery, but come in to help
celebrate recovery.
That spiritual recovery.
Yeah.
Come in to fill that spiritual void.
Right.
I talked to hundreds of people over the course of my career and try to talk to them about spiritual principles. Sometimes they look at me like I got two heads. Right. And what I try to explain to them is that my belief is that as addicts and alcoholics, we tend to be the most spiritual people in our society. And I justify that by saying everybody can remember having that aha moment when they first connected with their drug of choice.
Right. I could breathe. I could breathe.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And we don't keep looking for our car keys after we find them. Right? So we think we had found a solution. And so we keep going back to that solution because any
Yes.
behavior which is reinforced tends to be repeated.
Yes,
So we
and
go
it
back
was.
and we go
That's
back
my
and we go
solution.
back. But when the consequences start coming in, we ignore them because we've trained ourselves, here's my solution, here's my solution. And the trick is teaching people that your solution was a lie. Your solution was a lie. Here's a better one. It's more fulfilling, more long-lasting, more life-changing, and ultimately those consequences turn into positive consequences.
Yeah, the best thing that ever happened to me was that I had the judge tell me I needed to go to treatment.
Amen.
Best thing. Yeah, changed my life.
You have to hit rock bottom. And you brought up a good point, too, both of you, about, changing the environment. There's that saying, the 5 people that you hang out with, look at those 5 people, and that's who you are. So I think a big misconception, too, is somebody goes away for treatment, they think they're better, they come back home, they still have that same boyfriend, girlfriend, friend, best friend. And I think it's very evident you have to change your friends. You have to ditch that relationship. There's no way. If that person is an addiction, if those people are doing drugs or drinking or whatever you were doing, you got to get rid of them. You cannot have those people in your life. Plain and simple. There's just no other way. You're just fooling yourself.
And that goes back to the willingness piece too. Are they willing? I was certainly willing. I would go to any lengths to get my drug and get my drink. Was I willing to get my recovery?
Exactly. Especially, I think, when you come out of it, whether it's 30 days or less, or, that's the real challenge, because you think that maybe you're better because you've been 30 days or longer.
Right. I'm cured.
And now you go hang out with buddies, and they're like, oh, you could just have one, or you could try, and now you're back. So I think that's a huge pitfall. But everything you guys said today has been so important. And I hope this has helped, people who have watched this, to choose and, be careful choosing what treatment center, and take the advice and
be very careful.
Yes, because, this is, it's really important that you do your research, and I think when you're in the throes of addiction, it's very hard because, your mind is muddled, and you really need to reach out to the right people to get that help. So before we were nearing the hour, I want to give you both a chance to, again, give your contact information and any other information you want to give. I'll start with you, Lisa.
My direct number is 850-380-2372, and I can also be found at elisa.saunders@12oaksrecovery.com, and that's spelled out. And I even have.
And that's with an E, right? Because it's Lisa.
Yes, my real name is Elisa on my, and and I'm all over Facebook too. I have a LinkedIn account too where I'll post some things and pictures from, my center or some of the things that I do in the community. And that also has all my information on LinkedIn, and that's under Lisa or Elisa Saunders. I don't know which one. It's under both, maybe. So.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
And nice meeting you, Mark. Really nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you, Lisa.
Thank you. And Mark?
You can find us at artstonerecoverycenter.com. We are on Facebook. We are on Google+. We have our own YouTube channel. Please come see us. You can reach me at M as in Mark Thompson, THOMPSON, at artstonerecovery.com. And the phone number is 561-588-8323. Here to help.
Wonderful. And both of you will post that in the comments on the show.
Absolutely.
And have that this way, anybody who's watching, there'll be many people watching the replay later on, so this way they can see that. And Lisa Carter, she wrote again that they put my son in jail. I can beg you for the judge. I mean, please call either Mark or Lisa. Lisa has some resources for you. I'm sure Mark does too. Anybody out there who's an addiction professional, I know a lot of you watch the show. It's in the group. And her number is in the comments. So Lisa Carter has put her number in the comments. And I'll just flash it on the screen here once again so you guys can see it.
Okay.
She wants someone to call her.
And reach out to her.
Let's get her son help, and and let's pray for him. Whoever's, I know there'll be, we have thousands of people who are going to watch the show, now and then after the replay, and if everyone could say a prayer for him and for all
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.